Tuesday after a long weekend. It is not your typical interview here on MMA Sucka. It's not an MMA fighter. It's not even a full-time professional jiu-jitsu athlete. This guy is an actor. He's on one of the best shows in the he's on one of the best shows on TV right now. He is Ricky. The guy does do jiu-jitsu though, so let's chat a little bit with Ricky about all things from upcoming acting stuff and some jiu-jitsu. Ricky, thanks for joining me today, man.
Yeah, man, pleasure. Thank you for having me.
For sure. Now, I got an email and it was, hey, do you want to talk to Ricky? He's got some stuff coming up. And I'm like, hey, I know that name. I've seen he trains some jujitsu. I watched From. I'm like, hell yeah, I want to jump on this, man.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I'm glad. It seems like, yeah, after the season, we're really blowing up. I think more and more people are hearing about us.
100%. And I sort of want to go back because I've watched, leading up to this interview, I watched a bunch of the interviews that you did on those press junkets, which, I mean, you're being controlled by the people that are setting those up. And it's like some people had 4 minute interviews, some people had 6 minute interviews. And I heard something you said about the first season, and it was, it was at the beginning of COVID. So you were stuck in a hole in the hotel waiting for stuff to start, and you had imposter syndrome. Just talk to me about that because you had been in some big shows leading up to From. You didn't really even know what you were getting into with From because it was just debuting. Where did that whole imposter syndrome come from?
Um, I think that I think yeah, basically like any job, any endeavor, I think that creeps up. You know what I mean? And I think you know, as MMA fans, sometimes you kind of watch athletes debut like in real time, and you kind of wonder if they're going through the same thing. And I'm almost like 99% sure they are. It's just like um, I think that when you have like a large task ahead of you, something that could potentially be life changing, or something that's just really, really important to you personally, um, the task can sometimes feel very daunting. And I think that that's how getting ready to shoot that first season felt. You've been waiting for this opportunity for so long that when it finally is at your I guess at the threshold, it almost feels like it's too big, but I think most times all of us are usually capable of rising to the occasion.
For
Usually,
sure.
yeah.
And leading up to it, like you were on Good Doctor, A Million Little Things, like you had recurring roles on some shows, uh, but never the big star sort of like you are on this. And when you got the script and you were like reading through, whatever you got, what was your thought process behind that? And were you like, man, this thing has the potential to be something big? Obviously, from the people who made Lost, so you knew that was damn good. And this
Mhm.
has it looks like it's gonna exceed expectations.
Yeah, I think it's just um, like prior to booking From, there were a couple of very close calls to like some really um, potentially life changing, you know, opportunities. Like I was, as far as I was told, I was very close to getting that Marvel movie Shang-Chi to play Shang-Chi, um, but it was another Chinese Canadian dude, Simu Liu, and that would have been like life changing. I could tell my family like, I'm in a Marvel movie. I'm the lead of a Marvel movie, and that would have been crazy, right?
Oh yeah.
But it just ended up becoming one of those things where after that I was like really down for a long time, and I had to kind of shift my focus from what's the next big thing I could do, or what's the thing that'll help me blow up, to like focusing on like, okay, what are the things that are really like cool to me, really exciting to me, and really challenging to me. And From was exactly that. You know what I mean? Like I I didn't really know if it was gonna, because it's kind of on a niche platform, right? It's on in the states. It's on MGM Plus, and it was formerly called Epics. And then in Canada, we didn't even know where it was going to be in Canada for the longest time because
Yeah.
they were all the legal mumbo jumbo. And so I all I knew was like, this is really well written, and I finally have an opportunity to like really flex my stuff. And so um, that was the big game changer, really.
I also wanted to ask, I haven't seen this answer in any of the interviews you've done. I know there's shows where, you know, this is a show where you don't want to know any spoilers. And from an actor's perspective, I've seen shows where, you get a script for one episode, you get a script for two episodes, so you don't necessarily know where the show's going. Do you get your script for the entire season, or is it sort of couple episodes at a time so you're going into it with different emotion?
Yeah, so we get 2 episodes at a time, and so um, for example, right now, in between seasons, um, I know everything up until season 3. And so the moment the fans finish watching the season finale this season, so episode 10, me and all of the fans and the rest of the cast are all on the same page. We all know exactly the exact same amount of stuff. Which is kind of like it's good. It's good because it kind of keeps you guessing and you feel like your character and you're like wrapped up in the mystery and you have your own theories as well. But it's like also annoying because you're like, man, like I need it. I want to know what's going on. You know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And your character, I mean, Kenny, he's gone through the roller coaster of emotions. From your dad right away to your mom this season, to even like splitting with, you're no longer the guy on the police squad or whatever it is there. So you've
yeah.
gone through a lot in comparison to everybody else on the show. Like everybody else has emotions, there's pregnancies and all this kind of stuff and deaths here and there, but the connection of your family was pretty much the most impacted. How, for you personally, when
Mhm.
reading that, did your emotional, standpoint go through this, as in comparison to being an actor? Like how did it hit you?
How it hit me personally was like, it's really intense because so we shoot out in Halifax, and you and I are both from BC, um, and so literally the opposite side of the country, uh, and so not only being away from my family, my kid, and like um, the feelings of like homesickness, and then to read that and to have to kind of like knowing that I'm gonna have to go through that as the character is really intense. And um, I don't know. It's just like there's I think the town itself kind of tests everybody's best values and their best qualities, and everyone, like you said, is kind of going through it, right? Like for Boyd, it's his resilience, it's his fuck you attitude, and they're gonna test him on that. For Fatima, it's her like positivity or in her enthusiasm. She's gonna take care of everyone, and they're gonna test that. They're gonna make her mean and become short. And then with Kenny, it's his like hopefulness, right? His optimism and like the comfort that he brings people. It's like, okay, well, how do we crush this kid?
Yeah,
So
no kidding.
yeah,
Now, some people like are method actors where they truly embody the character. Have you seen yourself embody Kenny?
yeah, I mean, like him and I are like, me and Kenny are very different, but we obviously have a lot in common at his heart. We share a lot of the same um, values. But A, he's definitely a way better person than I could ever hope to be, and B, I think with each passing season, he's becoming more and more like me in the sense that like maybe I'm a little bit more jaded than Kenny. You know what I mean? So I think yeah, we're getting closer and closer. Um, but I think the method aspect of it, like I'm always pretty good at leaving work at home, but this last season, just because of the winter in Nova Scotia, um, it was like we had to reschedule a bunch of scenes, we had to reshoot a bunch of scenes, and like usually I'm good at leaving the heavy work, dark stuff at work. But because I didn't know when we were going to be shooting some of these really intense scenes, I kind of felt like I had to stay in that pocket. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like,
Yeah.
I guess, like like people talk about like in fight camp they turn on this this piece of themselves. Like they let the savage come out a little bit.
Yeah.
And for me, it felt like I had to turn on the sad boy for an extended period of time. So yeah, that was intense.
No kidding. So how does the family react when you get home?
Oh, well, the first season, everyone was like, "Oh, you're back!" Now there's like, "Oh, yeah, cool, yeah, good to see you, man."
All right, final from question, then we'll move on. You said in a few interviews early on in the season that I saw you do during the press junket that, we might get some answers here and there as the season moves forward. I have not watched Sunday's episode, so I don't actually know, but I'm
Uh-huh.
guessing there's two more episodes to go that it's going to get intense.
Yeah, yeah,
Just without, obviously you can't spoil anything, but just
yeah.
tell me the like what we're gonna go through here.
Um, well, if you haven't seen this week's episodes, you
Buckle
definitely
up.
well, you already got a bit of an answer there, and the next two episodes kind of builds towards some more answers as well. Um, what I will say though, as a disclaimer, is like what people think of as answers is like it's like long form television. It's supposed to be, I guess people are saying it's like the successor of Lost, right? And um, it's not like Stranger Things where we can give you the boss of the season and it's like this is why everything happened this whole season. By the way, there's a bigger boss coming up. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like it's going to be a bit of a the answers will bring about more questions, but you're definitely getting some pretty definitive answers in the next couple episodes.
Awesome. And I mean, it is a mind fuck and it's supposed to be a
Yeah,
mind fuck. And, people get frustrated because they're like, fuck, I just want answers, man. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you don't really want to give them away. All
No,
right.
no, no.
So, I mean, the email that I got was to talk about Worth the Wait, the upcoming film you're starring in alongside. I know I saw on your Instagram, you're like, I'm the other on that, the thing on Variety, I think. But people are dubbing this as sort of like the next Love Actually with a full, like, Asian cast. So tell me about this and just plug it a little bit before I talk to you about jujitsu.
Yeah. Worth the wait. We shot that last year here in we shot out in Surrey a lot, and then I think White Rock. But it was a really fun time. Like I haven't been able to do a comedy in a long time, and it's like an ensemble, multiple love stories in one movie, and but it's got a lot of heart. Like it's got some really really touching, dramatic moments that can't spoil, but I'm glad I got to work with Sung Kang, who was Han in Fast and the Furious, and that was a trip. I didn't make a great first impression, but I think by the end of it, we got there.
Explain
We
that.
got.
Explain that.
I got way too inebriated the first time that I hung out with him. Um, and he fell asleep at the table, and it was the whole thing. But he was like taking care of me. He's like, "Yeah, drink some water." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll drink some water, man." um, yeah, it was cool, man. He's like really really nice dude, and actually I texted him because the last time I competed in jits was at Dom's um,
Octet.
Octet,
Yeah.
80 grappling, and it was such a crazy event. And it was like kind of like Fast and Furious themed. So I texted Sung to see if he wanted to come, but he couldn't make it. That would have been
That would have
crazy.
been super cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, tell me about like transitioning from Kenny to this movie because obviously you
Mhm,
hadn't done much since starting the filming of From. What
mhm.
was it? You said it was nice to go into comedy. So what was it like transitioning from that character into something else? Obviously, you've been an actor for a long time, so it should be easy, but 2 seasons, 3 seasons of From, you're connected to this character.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like it was nice to just like especially because season one and then parts of season two, Kenny's in the stupid pants and with the stupid haircut and he's got the dumb shirt on. But it was like nice to literally like just like take that all off and like be a brand new character. And the character on Worth the Wait, I play this like young he's like a goofy kind of like YouTuber type. Not exactly a Jake Paul. I think he's like the positive Jake Paul. So that was just really fun, like to be able to kind of ham it up and act a fool.
We're running against the clock here, but I just want to touch on jujitsu before I let you go.
Sure, and
You
we can go over, man. If we go over, we go over.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
totally.
Awesome. So I heard in an interview you've been training for, about a year and a half, 2 years now. You
Mhm.
train with Dom at Vandal, which is just around the corner from where I teach and coach at Apex in Richmond. So we're
Awesome.
basically neighbors out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I watched your octet match. Unfortunately, fell short in that, but what an Imanari roll to start things off, man.
Okay, so much context needs to be addressed right there. Before the Imanari role, yes, I've been training with Dom, and actually, I want to say I want to give a huge shout out to your guys' kids program because I
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
because I've trained Muay Thai a little bit with his dad, and Seb is such a beast.
Yeah,
Um,
I coached Seb at ADCC.
that's so sick. Like
Yeah.
he's so cool and like that. I don't want to put any expectations on my kid, but I'm like, yeah, you better get your shit together, you but that's the Imanari role. Um, I'm actually obviously, if you know Dom, like most of his competition career was like leg locks, like before leg locks kind of
Yeah.
became the new meta and then pass. Um, and but I actually like aside from the straight ankle, like leg locks aren't really my thing. But I'm a brand new blue belt. I think I was 160. I weighed in for octet, and my opponent Max, who's a dog, is like a 185 purple belt. And I'm like, I gotta get under this guy quick and just try to finish this really, really quick. So I was like joking all week. I'm like, I think I'm gonna hit an Imanari roll on this guy. And then we show up to the venue, and and Max the whole time, and this is a nightclub. This isn't just like a I don't know, like BCIT, right? Like this is a nightclub, and Max is just walking back and forth, pacing this nightclub barefoot, dirty as fuck feet. And I'm like, bro. My theory is that he knew we're like a leg lock gym, and he was trying to discourage us from touching his feet, which it almost worked, but I just committed to it and failed the Imanari roll.
Hey, but
Um,
it looked cool.
Looked cool for like a good 10 seconds before he just absolutely smashed me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you take
Well, he
away from it though? Like,
also,
so
yeah.
you competed at that octet event. Had you competed previously?
I've done like a couple of like local tournaments, but no, that was like my first like not like smooth comp
Yeah, yeah.
registered.
Did you have to get the okay from production to enter a competition like that?
No, I people always ask about that, but no, as long as we're not actively shooting, it's totally fine. I used to compete in Muay Thai, and
Okay.
for that, yeah, for that I needed to. Well, I didn't really. Well, my agent was just like, just don't get your face busted up. I'm like, yeah, okay. Um, you just do the thing.
Of
And actually,
course.
speaking of which, I used to train with Brent.
Yeah, I
Um,
know
I,
Brent. Yeah.
yeah, who I think went to teach Muay Thai at Apex for a bit
He
too.
did. He did. Yeah. And yeah, I used to train a lot with Brent before he became a longshoreman and sort of screwed off. But yeah, what got you into jujitsu then? I mean, it's only been a couple years. Did you start with Vandal? Was that your first gym? Like, what got you into thinking about starting to grapple?
Yeah, so on the topic of jujitsu and on Brent, I started training in Muay Thai in 2016, and Brent, I started training at this gym. You definitely know it, Pacific Top Team Richmond, and obviously PCT is a jits gym, but my coach Mike Lynn used to run the Muay Thai program out of PTT Richmond, and Brent was the first person to ever say to me when I started training Muay Thai, he's like, you might as well do jits too. I'm like, oh, but I really want to focus on this one thing and get really good at this one thing. And I feel like I'll spread myself out too thin. His whole thing was like, dude, if you do both now, then you'll be good at both. And I was like, nah. And that is to this day my greatest regret about not starting jits at that point, because I think I would have been just way better off now.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
but,
everyone says that though, right? Like everyone looks back on it, oh man, I wish I had started when I was a kid. Like looking at kids like Seb and
Yeah.
whatnot, you're like, oh man, if I was there, like, what are they going to be like when they're our age or whatever, right?
Horrifying.
Like, they're going to be
Yes.
absolute
Scary.
monsters.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but so then I trained Muay Thai and I started competing, and the goal was always to compete in Muay Thai as much as possible, or as frequently as possible. But when I really started getting really proficient, and I pride myself, like, without getting off the rails, like, not that I'm some fucking savant, but I did feel like, because all I was doing was training Muay Thai and I had so much time on my hands, I got pretty good in a short amount of time, and then COVID hit. COVID hit. We tried to do all the things with the regulations, and then it didn't work out. Eventually, the gym closed, and I had nowhere to train. And when I was shooting season one of From, I was still hitting the bag. I was still trying to stay in shape in case my Muay Thai gym reopened. Um, but then in my last month in Halifax, I said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna try jits." I've always wanted to grapple. I've always wanted to do jujitsu. I've always wanted to wrestle. I've always wanted to, like grapple. I just went into the gym and I took a leap of faith. I trained at this gym, Halifax BJJ Society, which I still train at when I'm out east. And then when I came back, I hit up Dom and I said, "Hey, you opened a gym, right? Can I come by?" And the rest is history.
Nice, man. That's awesome. I love to hear, those kind of stories where guys are like, yeah, I didn't think I wanted to do it. And then you try it and you're like, fuck, I wish I did this a long time ago. It becomes a super addiction.
Yeah.
And as you said, like, you still train out in Halifax when you're out there. It's not like you're stopping because you're going to shoot. You're like, fuck, it's on my mind. I need to train. Too bad we didn't
Yeah.
see some jujitsu in From.
Imanari roll a monster.
Yeah. So, obviously, I'm guessing up to next season, like there's going to be production coming up, so no competitions. But can we see you back on the competition mats if Dom hits you up for Octet or something like that again?
I actually, my goal is always to, like, compete as much as I can in between seasons, or just whenever I can, really. Uh, but yeah, we just welcomed another new baby. She's like turning two.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you, man. So she's turning 2 months old in a little bit. So I just haven't even really been able to train for the last 2 months, let alone compete. So and it makes me feel like such an asshole because I look at, like, Alex Moe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we literally had our baby at the same hospital, like, 4 hours apart,
Oh,
and that guy
jeez. Oh,
just
he's an
been done.
animal. He's an
Yeah,
animal.
yeah. So I'm like watching his stories, like, in my fucking underwear at home. I'm like, oh, nice, he's doing hill sprints. So that's
Hey, I took 6.5, 7 years off when I had a kid, so don't join that club.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
started jujitsu in 2006. I just got my black belt last year, so.
yeah, yeah, man.
But
So that's
it's a marathon, man. It's not a race. As is From Ricky. I completely appreciate you joining me today, man. It's been a blast chatting with you. Can't wait to watch these last few episodes, and good luck with everything else you got going on, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.